But low-frequency people bought it. High-frequency people didn't buy it. So our audience is the high-frequency people, and it's particularly the next generation of high-frequency beings. I'm 64, and it was at some point around, I think Yogi Bhajan was around 64, 65, a guy came to my house and he saw a picture of Yogi Bhajan. He said, "Who is that?" I said, "That's my teacher." He said, "How old is that guy?" I said, "I think he's about 64, 65. The guy goes, "Well, he's lived the hell out of that, hasn't he?" And at this point, in Yogi Bhajan, he lasted 11 more years. And those were painful years. He had already spent the previous decade with numerous angioplasties and then open heart surgery and then diabetes and so forth. And the next decade, as he moved to the last decade of his life, was kidney transplant, more heart problems, diabetes. They want to amputate the foot, and the health problems magnified and multiplied. And I don't know what my future holds, but I do know that time is short and precious. And, you know, they used to say that back when the whole Soviet Union was collapsing in 1989, they said, you know, Marx is dead, communism is dying, and I don't feel so well myself. And that actor recently who was in Black Panther and Da Blood, is that the name of that movie? No one watches TV anymore. What's the name of that movie? Da Blood? Any rate, he was young, 43. He died of cancer, but he didn't tell anybody. And he was in that movie with Spike Lee, directed, I think, Da Blood, about some Vietnam War veterans. And Spike Lee said he had no idea this guy was in stage 4 cancer. That's where I'm going to go out, folks. I'm not going to announce my medical problems. Because keep quietly moving along and see how far I can go. But from your point of view, which was exactly what my point of view was with Yogi Bhajan, I don't know how long this portal of teachings is going to remain open in this form. And I tried to get as much as I could, as fast as I could, knowing that these type of teachings are very precious. They arrive on the planet very rarely, and the opportunity to get them from a living teacher is very rare. And that because we're in a tantric tradition, the tantric always carries with it a storm of negativity, a storm of, essentially it activates the polarity. So it's pure positive energy, so it activates the negative polarity. Other systems, other energy fields don't activate the negative polarity. They get it here and there, but they're not essentially going along lighting fires on the side of the road. But the tantric energy, that moves in that fashion, and it's only been on this planet about 5,000 years. And there was a Lama who I know who sent his student to Yogi Bhajan's teacher, Sanazar Singh, in the 1930s in India. So there was 250 students for this Sanazar Singh, whose picture we have. And at the end of the day, there was kind of, the 250 students had turned negative on the teacher and ran away or been pushed away, or the force field. Essentially, they couldn't stay in the frequencies. Very, very common, this phenomenon. So there was 2 students left, effectively. They were Lama Lillian Po and Yogi Bhajan. And today we decided I'll put out my connection to the Lama Lillian Po lineage, which I've taken a number of you into those realms, and you've met some of the carriers of that energy field inside the Tibetan Buddhist system. And this goes back, for me, to the earliest days when I met Yogi Bhajan in 1975, and connected also around the same time with this Tibetan stream. So I'm carrying both of these lineages, but we're not carrying the Yogi Bhajan 3HO Sikh Dharma lineage, and we're not carrying the Tibetan Buddhist lineage. We're creating a new lineage. Yogi Bhajan, a quote from the summer solstice stage with a big audience, not a private conversation, a public statement. He said 3HO and Sikh Dharma were a couple of gimmicks. Use the word gimmicks. A couple of gimmicks to create a few human beings to lead humanity into the new age. That's the game we're playing. There's a computerization of this planet. There's an information kind of field on this planet now, and people need this particular way of life. And it was brought to the planet, and as the Woodstock Nation came of age in late 60s, 1960s, and then it's moved along this way. And along the way, it's picked up all sorts of bystanders, critics, people with bad memories, twisted characters. It's been an open mental hospital for all sorts of characters. And Yogi Bhajan said, I'll have at the most 12 students when this is over. And it looks like there's a lot less than that at this hour. So for me, watching people respond to this particular version of the Time magazine article is like coming home and watching all the people you grew up with being shot dead, lying on the ground. Because when you betray your teacher, you betray your lineage, and you betray your destiny. And you have now gone into fate. And when David's made the movie, we have put out the teachings. It's there for the high-frequency people. It's not there for the low-frequency people. And so you have to be very attentive to these forces that are working to pull you in different directions. So now we're not associated with the 3HO or Kundalini Research Institute, the KRI, and we're going to start, these teachings will now take a different manifestation, a different expression. The teachings are pure, teachings remain the same, but the how we're going to get them to you is going to start to change. And my notion is simple. I have no idea when I'm going to die, and when I die, whether I still have to come and work on this planet. So I want to create some group of people that I can take incarnation with, who understand these teachings and are not confused by low-frequency energies and can actually give me the teachings. That's what we're trying to explain to you with the Tibetan system, where they've done a very good job of passing it incarnation to incarnation. That's called lineage. And now you'll have the low-frequency people arguing that you don't need a lineage. No, you don't need the lineage. You don't need anything. You can go get drunk and spend the rest of your life in whatever kind of a mindset you want. No, but if you want to practice the real thing, then you have to connect to something. It's not complicated. But if that thought doesn't resonate with you, it's because your frequency is not, you're not tuned into that, which is not good or bad, but you do need to recognize that. If you go up to somebody and you say something in English and they stare at you blankly, likelihood is they don't speak the language. And if they don't speak the language, you're not going to be able to communicate a lot of subtle points. So this is what your quest is. Your quest is to figure out what language you need to speak to find the high-frequency energy that matches your destiny direction. And here at Rama, we're offering one particular expression of this tantric energy field. And if you're not interested, it's perfectly okay. And also, we're going to start what we call a Kundalini training. And I'm getting all this pressure that we need to package it with Yoga Alliance, I think it's called, which is some group of people that have put together a curriculum of how yoga should be taught, and if you agree with their approach, then they'll give you their stamp of approval. We are not interested in someone else's approach to this because there's a different frequency. It's different. So we have, Guru Jagat and I have created the Rama Global Alliance. So all the courses in the Kundalini training will be taught under the auspices of the Rama Global Alliance so that we have the freedom to make our own curriculum and we can deliver the teachings to you in such a way where you can succeed. And just think, I'm just trying to put it in simple terms, so that I can find somebody who can embody these teachings, live these teachings, practice these teachings, understand these teachings, and transfer the teachings to somebody else so that I could take reincarnation in that family and get those teachings. We were discussing this in the Zoom call, which is for the Kundalini training. We'll have another one of those after Labor Day. There's a certain type of Nad yoga, a Laya yoga, a sound system yoga, that it has a restriction on it, has a condition on it. And the condition is it can only be taught in a family. And if you're familiar with all these bloodlines, obsessions with bloodlines and relatives and so forth, that's because there's certain things that can only travel in families. And there's two types of family. There's a Bij family, which starts from a seed, so that would be blood-related. And then there's called a Nod family, which is people of a certain sound. And the Nod family, you can create a Nod family and teach this particular form of Laya Yoga, which my teacher taught me, which I want to teach you. But because the 3HO family has been destroyed in the last 8 months, it's now essentially an historical artifact. Then we have to create the Rama community, the Rama family, of essentially people who are on a similar frequency, so we can transfer the teachings. And there's lots of all sorts of teachings, but that's what we're going to do here. Guru Jagat has worked 24/7 for almost 7 years now to create this structure. And the kindness and that I've been treated I'm very, very grateful for, and allows me a place to give the teachings that I hold and I have received, in the hopes of creating a new generation of carriers of these teachings. Because if you look around, when this Yogi Bhajan's 3HO and Sikh Dharma were attacked, how many people just fell in and became victims? The numbers, the percentage is astonishingly high. I mean, shockingly high. It's bizarrely high of how many people essentially bought into this negative directional attack because they weren't on a high enough frequency to see the falsehoods of it or the agenda of the attackers and so forth. Now, many of you have no idea this is an old family war that has nothing to do with you. That's what you should really focus on. It's ancient history, and it has nothing to do with you. You've come long after the principles have died or so forth, and you've got to focus on you have to figure out how to get the energy to get to your destiny, so your destiny can carry you at the right level to where you need to go to. That's the quest of every human being, and that's certainly your quest. And if you've come into the orbit of the Rama Institute, then it's because you have an opportunity. Again, we have an opportunity here. You have an opportunity to receive teachings that are very rare, that are very precious, that are very revered and sacred in all sorts of realms. And then be very conscious that time is moving and time is short. And people like me don't last that long, is the general rule. And so therefore, you've got to get the teachings while they're available. And if you want to be a tourist, it's perfectly okay. You want to be a shop at all sorts of places, it's perfectly okay. But you in your heart of hearts know if this is your path and if you need to get going on it. And that's your internal decision, and you have to understand in this world, from the teacher's point of view, don't buy the cliche consciousness of the lollipop view of spirituality or the kind of spiritual propaganda that's been packaged, that by all sorts of characters for all sorts of agendas. The teacher doesn't care what you decide to do with your fate or destiny. The teacher is essentially a relational energy field. That if it has any power, it's going to provoke negativity. If it has any power, it's going to provoke positivity. And if it has real power, it'll provoke destiny resources, destiny direction, and take you to unimaginable places of positivity. That's what happened when I met my teacher. And the whole world can try to paint my teacher as a bad guy, and I'm not for 1 second going to believe it. Because I understand how the frequency works, how the levels work. And again, we've tried to give you a little more context that I kept relatively quiet, maybe not that well, over all these decades, of how connected I am into this Tibetan stream where this energy went. So this stuff moves in and out of time streams, it moves in and out of cultures, but it has one intent: to help uplift the person who encounters it. To help uplift the person who encounters it. And we need more people on the planet who are holding these teachings and essentially are places where you can go and get uplifted and more positive, healed, strengthened, and move on. And we have to create that. And we're going to create it inside new formats, because this certificate consciousness got us absolutely nowhere. I'll get a little pointed here if you don't mind. Yogi Bhajan gave one guy a healing power. And for 30 years, he sat on the throne of this healing. And you know who I'm talking about. And you tell me anywhere in the world you go, you're looking for one of those healers. Fact is, they don't exist, because it wasn't transferred. It wasn't transferred to anybody. So there's no lineage holders in that tradition. There's one healer, and then there's followers. So we have to create powerful teachers. We have to create successful people. We have to create people who have a magnetic field so this lineage can continue. And that's what we're looking for, and that's what we want to attract and cultivate and grow. And there's young people who have arrived on the planet. There's souls looking to incarnate. There's souls who have incarnated, and they're looking for quality teachings. They're looking for a quality structure. So you're part of that as much as you want to be a part of it. And I'll do my best till I keel over and die to pass it on so that there's some record, some holders of the lineage. So that's what we're about on this day. And the world has changed dramatically. And if in your heart you decide that, okay, this is the day I'm going to get more focused on my destiny direction. Because we're in a computerized landscape, there's no lack of opportunity. There's no lack of information. No one is being denied possibility, opportunity, or resource. You have to figure out what you're going to do with the availability of all those possibilities, all those resources. You have to decide what your future is. No one can decide that for you. And people may want to manipulate you and drag you into what their version of your future should be, and we want you to have enough energy to make your own decision. And we understand that these teachings are needed by humanity, that this planet is not headed in the right direction, and we've got to get more positive people who embody these teachings, express these teachings, have become these teachings, so that life can go on. So be very careful about how you spend your time. That's my kind of basic message of the day. Because people like me don't last that long. And I look back at all of the beings I've encountered, when many of them are not on the planet anymore. And we're left with records of some sort, which are then run, the content is run through a different neurology. And so what comes out is very distorted, edited, deleted. It kind of it doesn't have the original power. So we need you to increase your energy field, increase your intuitive clarity, and make an intelligent, conscious decision of how you are going to help yourself help humanity. So that's what we're about. So today we'll do a few little kriyas in order to essentially protect us from these negative forces. But keep that in mind. It's just the nature of the reality structure. If I were arriving inside this Kundalini world, I'll tell you exactly what I would do. I would find out who's the most slandered person, and I would first check them out first. Because that means they're provoking the negative response. This means they must have some positive energy to provoke the negative response. Right? You're not going to provoke the negative. If no one cares about you, no one's going to slander you. So, and this particular lineage has that type of factor in it. It does amplify the negative, and it amplifies the positive. And you have to make those decisions, and don't let someone else make them for you. Yeah, many people, this is the 1977 article in Time magazine accusing Yogi Bhajan of sexual misbehavior and on, was Time magazine. This is pre-internet once upon a time, 1977. This is after Jonestown, after the guy went down there and had all those people drink cyanide Kool-Aid and died. This is after Jonestown, Time magazine comes out with this article accusing Yogi Bhajan. And there's no one's not screaming fake news in those days. And also, you have no place to essentially rebut the article because no one's going to publish your rebuttal. So it hangs out there. And how many people are going to say, oh, it's a good idea to follow this guy, some Indian guy, change your name, change your dress, change your culture inside modern-day America with Jonestown people? It doesn't make any sense. So which energy did I tune into? And I have absolutely no regrets about the path I took or anything that happened on the path that I took. And you can believe whatever you want. We're not trying to ask you. You decide what you want to believe. I happen to know all the people involved in this drama. And some of them I knew would be, when they were born, and little children and teenagers and so forth. And I have a bigger data bank, and I don't believe a word of these people. And you have to figure out what the agenda is, and that's going to be determined by your frequency. And if you want to buy it, it's perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay. We don't have any issue with that whatsoever. And if you want to spend your life cursing us out and slandering us, that's perfectly okay too. That's normal. We expect the sun to go down every night and get dark. We expect the sun to come up in the morning. We expect it to rain. We expect the wind to blow. We expect the people to slander. So that's just the way the world works. It doesn't bother us at all. But we are looking for the people who want to carry these teachings into the future. And that is your decision. And those are the people we're focused on. And those are the people we're focused on serving, educating. And I can tell you again, we can't educate you in the certificate consciousness model, which has been run for about 20 years now. It doesn't produce the result. Look at the result. There's just no teachers out there that have achieved any kind of status because that system doesn't work. So we're reformulating that. And if you're interested in that, doing the old system, essentially a Piscean transition, get your certificate. We have a printer here. We'll print, all these things, but it's not going to get you the consciousness that you need to imprint on your aura, on your arc line. That's your effort. That's your decision. We'll offer absolutely the opportunities to change your destiny. Because when I arrived, I knew nothing, and I followed a pure path. I followed a pure teacher, and I got a pure result.